Okay, students, our today's topic is about ER model drawbacks. You have some idea about the ER model. So this is one of the simple diagram of ER model. As you can see, there is a connection between every entities of this ER model. So if you want to find out some information, you can do so. You can check yourself whether the information is available or not. For example, if I want to find out which employee is working on which project, so I can see there is a relationship between employee and project. So this means I can find out this information that each employee is working on which project. Similarly, if I want to find out the department of the employee, I can see there is a connection between employee and department also. So we can find out which employee is working on which department. So this is a way of finding out way of finding out that the information can be extracted from your ER diagram or not. So if the for the all the common queries that came to your mind, if you can find yourself that the information may be available, then this means that your ER diagram is good. Otherwise, if something is missing, that means your ER diagram is not good. For example, if I want to find out that dependents, what are the departments of employee for that particular dependent. For example, I have a dependent A and I want to find out the employee on which it is dependent, the department of that employee. So I can see that this dependent is connected with the employee, and from employee it is further connected with department. So I can find out this kind of information also, that that particular dependent is dependent on the employee of what department. So you can see by making all these connections from the ER diagram, it is quite clear that we can find out that particular information. Now, there are some problems in ER model also. Problem may arise when designing a conceptual data model, that is called connection traps. So these are the two. These are the connection traps. There are two different kind of connection traps. That means connection either is missing or there is some ambiguous connection. There are two kind of problem. For example, the connection here means the relationship. For example, there is a connection between employee and there is a connection between employee and department. There is also a connection between employee and department. There is a connection between employee and project, connection between employee and dependent. So these all are the connections. So according to these kind of connection trap is that when sometime we cannot conceptualize the problem accurately, and we create the diagram in such a way that there are two kind of connection problems. These are due to misinterpretation of the meaning of certain relationship, the reason being the misinterpretation of the meaning. And two main type of traps are there. One is called fan trap and another one is called chasm trap. So this is two kind of traps, fan traps and chasm trap. So what is fan trap? Where a model represents a relationship between entity types, but pathway between the certain entity occurrences is ambiguous. So fan trap occur, that means pathway exists, there is no problem in the pathway, but the pathway is ambiguous. Ambiguous means there are multiple pathway to reach some particular point. So we will it will be more clear when you see the example. Second case is chasm trap. Chasm trap means when a model suggests the existence of relationship, model is suggesting the existence of relationship between the entity type, but pathway does not exist. So in this case, there is no pathway between the entity occurrences. So when there is no pathway, then it is chasm trap. When there is pathway exists, but it is ambiguous, then it is called fan trap. So this is example of fan trap. For example, I have a ER diagram that consists of staff entity, division entity, and branch entity. So these are the three different kind of entities, and there is relationship between staff and division, m into 1. One division may have multiple staff, and division and branch, one division may have multiple branch, again 1 and m. Relation is 1 to m and m to 1. So this is the main thing to concentrate, to focus, that if there is a kind of this kind of relationship m to 1 and 1 to m, that relationship exists, then there are the chances, I am not saying that it is always, there are the chances that there will be a fan trap. So a division can have multiple staff members, and division also operate multiple branches. For example, in one division, for example, it is a Patiala division, and office has multiple branches in Patiala division, like one is account branch, one is administrative branch, one is another kind of finance branch may be there. So one division may have multiple branches, and one division may have multiple staff members. So when this kind of representation is there in the ER diagram, where we have M to 1 and 1 to M relationship among the entities, then there are the chances of fan trap. It does not say that which staff member works on which branch. So if I want to find out that which staff member is working on which branch, it is not possible to find out. Let us see example in more detail. So this is, for example, I have all the staff entities. For example, this is your staff number SG37, SA9, SL21. Suppose this is set of all the staff entities, and this is set of all the relation of the staff entity with the division. So I can find out that staff SG37 is working in division 1, SA9 is also working in division 1, SL21 is working in division 2. I can find out this information easily. Similarly, I can find out that division 1 has a branch B03 and B07. So these are the two branches of division 1, and B05 is a branch of division 2. So I can find out all this information easily. But problem is, if I want to find out at what branch SG37 works, is it working in B03 or is it working in B07? So there is no way to find out, because this path comes to D1. From D1, it is not clear whether SG37 is working in this department or this department. So there are two different paths from D1. There is a path from D1 to B03 also. There is a path from D1 to B07 also. So if you want to find out that what is the branch of SG37, you cannot find. So here it is the ambiguity. So we can find out only that SG37 is working in some branch of D1. It may be 03, it may be 07. So we cannot exactly find out what is the branch of SG37. So this kind of problem is called fan trap, where you can see path exists, but the path is ambiguous. Path exists from SG37 to B03 also, as well as to B07 also. Both the path exist, but it cannot pinpoint that at what branch SG37 is working. Then solution of this particular problem is just to restructure the ER model. So you have to reorient the ER model. You have to change your view, change the diagram in fact only. That is, you have to change division, move the branch at the middle point, connect the division with branch, and connect the branch with staff. So the solution of fan trap is very easy. You have to just reorient your diagram. So restructuring the model can resolve the fan trap. So in this way, now you can see again pictorially. So I have D1 branch. So I can find out D1 branch, D1 division contains branch 3 and 7, and D1 division contains staff number SG37 and A9, SA9. So these both are the employee of branch D1, and they are working. SG37 is working in branch 03, and SA9 is working in branch 07. So every concept is now clear, every relationship is now clear. So we can identify, we can find out every kind of information from this particular diagram. So it is again a fan trap. To find out the fan trap, it exists when there is M to 1 and 1 to M relationship. So you have to reorient the diagram in such a way that that relationship, that the ambiguity of the path can be resolved. Then next is chasm trap. Chasm trap, while a fan trap can be identified by looking at the data model only, it is easy to identify, but chasm trap can be more difficult to spot. So this means chasm trap occurs only when when the path is missing. So when the path is missing, so that can be tracked only when you have some actual data. So the below data models, for example, we have branches, staff, and property for rent. So I have different branches of my organization, and every branch contains the staff member, and every staff member is looking after for some property. For example, this ER diagram belongs to some organization that is into the business of property. Property can be for rent and property can be for sale also. So some staff members are looking for the property for rent, some staff member is looking after for the property for sale. So if branch has multiple staff member and one staff member can look after multiple property that are advertised on the site. So chasm trap appears only if there is a missing data in the middle table. So here middle table is staff table. For example, a staff is present in branch but has not assigned any property to look after. So this is a pictorial view again. Suppose I have a branch B03 which has a staff member SG37, and SG37 is looking after the property for rent PG36. So this is the property number PG36, which a staff member is looking after. And similarly, in branch B07, in branch B07, we have a staff member SA9, but there is no property that is assigned to SA9. And similarly, branch B5, SL21 is the name of employee, or you can say ID of employee, and PL94 is the property that he is looking. So at which branch office is property PA14 available? So if I want to find out this information, because PA14, because this connection is missing, so there is no connection. This connection is missing because PA property is not assigned to any of the employee. So this means I cannot find out this particular information at which branch office is property PA14 available. It may be available at branch B03, it may be available at branch 7, it may be available at branch 05. So it is not clear from this particular diagram, and it only happens because no staff member is allocated to look after this particular property. So property exists in the system, but no staff member is looking after this particular property. So there is a missing connection. So how will you find out to which branch this property is registered? So there is no way to find out. So to solve this kind of problem, chasm trap, it appears only when there is missing data. So that means missing data means there is no path from one entity to this particular entity. So there is no path from branch to this particular entity. So I to remove this particular kind of problem, you have to make a connection between branch and property directly. So it is indirect connection. Basically it is through from branch to staff, and then from staff to property. So it is indirect connection. So instead of creating the indirect connection, requirement is that there should be a direct connection between property and branch. So to solve this kind of problem, you have to create another relationship by adding another relationship offers, which can resolve the chasm trap property. So this relationship connects the branch with the property for rent entity. So I can find out which property is available at what branch. So this kind of relationship must exist in order to remove the chasm trap. So I can this is the visual again pictorial diagram. So I can see now this property P14 is connected with B07. So P14 is available at branch B07. So this kind of information is now available by adding a new relationship between these two entities. So you can find chasm trap. It is difficult to find the chasm trap in the real scenario. It will appear only when the missing data will be there. So generally by experience you can find out this kind of problem easily, but without experience it can be noticed only when the existing when the data exists, when actual data exists in the system. Then we are talking about we will talk about relational database constraints. Constraints are some rules that can apply on some system. So relational database also has some rules, some constraint, because relational model concept is introduced by EF Code, Dr. EF Code of IBM. He was working in IBM in 1970, and he published a paper called Relational Model for Large Shared Data Banks, and this paper was published in ACM in June 1970, and this paper is a major cause of revolution in the field of database management and earned the COD, the coveted ACM Turing Award. Due to this paper, he received this particular award, and this is one of the revolutionary papers that revolutionized the world of database management system. Earlier, database was managed using network approach or using hierarchical approach, but after this paper, so relational model approach is more prominent and more famous, and now almost all the systems are using relational model concept. So what is a relation? A relation is basically a table of values. A relation may be thought of as a set of rows, or alternatively it may also be thought of as a set of columns. So relation is basically a set of rows, set of columns, and entity each row represent a fact that correspond to some real world entity or relationship. So each row, every row correspond to some entity. If it is representing table representing some entity, or table may represent also some relationship. So that means the row will represent some relationship, or it may represent some entity also. So each row has a value of an item. Each row, what will it contain? It will contain the value of an item or set of items that uniquely identifies that row in the table. Sometimes row IDs or sequential number are assigned to identify the row in a table. So if no column is capable of identifying the row uniquely, then you have to add another column that may contain some row ID or may contain some sequential number that will act as a primary key that will be used for identifying the row uniquely. So each column typically is called by its column name or column header or attribute name. So all the attributes will become the name of the column in relational table. So this is a formal definition, mathematical definition that we have already covered in a previous lecture. Suppose set 1, S1 is a set of all the numbers 0 and 1, and S2 is a set that contains the value ABC. Then R will be a subset of cross product of S1 and S2 that we have already covered. So then, for example, a subset means it may contain any combination. For example, first combination 0 can be connected with A, 0 can be connected with B, 0 can be connected with C. But as per the restriction, as per the relation, some of the combination may not be possible. So that's why we have only 0A, 0B, and 1C. Only 3 tuples are there. Then relation R may contain some of the tuple, which is basically a subset of the cross product of S1 and S2. These are the two sets. And this particular thing 0A, 0B, 1C, this is called one possible state. There may be other possible states also. So this is one of the possible state, or you can say it is the population of the table, or you can another name is extension R of the relation R. So defined over the domain of S1 and S2. So we can say it has 3 tuples. There are 3 different rows: first row, second row, and third row. So in this particular state, the relation has only 3 tuples. So these are the formal and informal terminology that is popular in literature. Informally, we are calling it table, but formally it is a relation. Informally, we are calling the column, but formally it is attribute or domain. Informally, we are calling the term row, but formally it is tuple. Informally, values in a column, formal term is domain. Informal term is table definition. Formal term is it is schema. So it is called schema of a relation. So whatever the definition of a table, that definition is formally known as schema of the table. Then informally we call it populated table. Formally we are calling it as a extension of a relation R. So extension means table has some values. Table definition, that is formally called schema. Values in a column is basically formally known as domain of the column. So domain means the possible set of values. For example, the domain of age column is all the values between 1 to 100, because we can consider that age cannot be 0, age cannot be less than 0. So all the possible values for the column age can be only from 0 to 100. So if supposing that there is no person who is living beyond 100, or you can say 120 maximum limit. So domain is all the possible values that can appear in that particular column. Then these are the characteristics of relations, that is basically tables. So ordering of tuples in a relation R. The very first characteristics that correspond to the ordering of a tuple. The tuples are not considered to be ordered, even though they appear to be in a tabular form. Although they are appearing in the table, and table we have first row, second row, third row, but that ordering does not matter in any way. So tuples are not considered to be ordered. Practically there will be ordering, because we have to represent something at the first location, we have to put something at the second location, and so on. Practically it is ordered, but theoretically that ordering does not matter. So ordering of attributes in the similar way, ordering of attribute in a relation schema R, and of the values within each tuple will consider the attribute R A1, A2, AN. A1, A2, AN is a list of all the attributes. So this is attribute 1, attribute 2, that means column 1, column 2 up to nth column. So R is the name of relation. So and the values in that particular tuple V1, V2 up to Vn. So tuple T basically correspond to one row. So all the values of one row, although they are appear to be ordered, but actually they are not ordered. There is no order among them. However, more general alternative definition of relation does not require this ordering. Although there is ordering, practically there is ordering of, we have first column, we have second column, we have third column. Similarly, value of first column, second value of second column, value of third column. So all these values have some ordering practically, but theoretically this ordering should not be mattering. So there should be no order theoretically. Then values in a tuple, the third characteristics of relation, that is about values in a tuple. All values are considered atomic. Atomic means they are indivisible. Indivisible means they must not be further divided into subparts. For example, name of the person may be divided into subpart: first name, middle name, last name, but first name cannot be further subdivided. So first name is the atomic value, and all the values in a relation must be atomic. So this is again characteristics of relation. So whenever you put the values into the table, those values should be atomic only. Non-atomic values or composite values should not be there. So a special null value can be used to represent values that are unknown or inapplicable to certain tuples. In certain tuples we can have null values. So null value we have already discussed that are applicable, that can be used in place of the situations when it is not known, unknown situation, or when it is not applicable. So in both the cases we can use null values, but as a general rule, you should avoid using null values, because null values can cause lot of problems. We will discuss in detail in the future lectures. Then we have some constant based upon, so these are the characteristics of relational model and relations in particularly tables. And a relational integrity constant means the rules that are applied on the relation. So constants are the conditions that must hold on all the valid relation instance. So there are three main type of constant. One is the key constant, second one is the entity integrity constant, and third one is referential integrity constant. So I think we have already covered referential integrity constant, but we will again cover it today. So we are first of all we will cover the key constant. So three kind of constants are there, three kind of rules, three kind of conditions that are applicable on the table. First of them is key constant. So we have different kind of keys. One is the super key. Super key of R is here relation, or you can say table. So super key of R is basically a set of attribute of R. It is set of attribute of R such that no two tuples in any valid relation instance R will have the same value of super key. So this means set of attributes. What is super key? First of all, we have to clear this thing. What is super key? So super key is a combination of any one, two, or more than two attribute, so that you can uniquely identify any row in the table. For example, consider this particular table car. So I have a table car which has an attribute state, registration number, serial number, make, model, and year. Now you can see I can create a number of combination. So given a state and registration number, these two values, I can uniquely identify any row. Given a serial number and make, I can identify any two values. Given a serial number, make, and model, I can identify any car. So given a serial number, make, model, and year, I can identify any car. So this means any combination of the attribute which helps me to identify any row in the table, that combination will become the super key. So super key key hai. Super key is a set of attributes of relation R such that no two tuple in any valid relation will have the same value for SK. SK means super key. So in this case, if I have serial number and make and model, so there will be no row in this particular table that have all the three values same. At least one value will be different. So that makes that particular combination as a key. So any distinct tuple T1 and T2 in R, so T1 SK is not equal to T2 SK. This means that for tuple 1, the super key value of super key for tuple 1 will not be equal to the value of super key for tuple 2. So this particular equation will read as value of super key of tuple 1 will not be equal to the value of super key of tuple 2. So I hope it is clear now. So this terminology. Then we are coming to another part, that is key of R. What is key? So key is a minimal super key. Now what is minimal super key? What is super key? Super key is any combination of two or more attribute that can uniquely identify your row. What is minimal super key? If you remove the attribute from the super key, will you be left with some combination that can uniquely identify? For example, from serial number, make, model, and year, if I remove the year part, again I left with the serial number, make, and model. So I can find out a unique, I can find out any row uniquely. And if I remove model number also, then again I left with serial number and make, and again I can find out any car uniquely. And if I remove model make also, if I remove make also, I left with serial number. So serial number can identify, given a serial number, I can identify any car uniquely. So serial number is also super key. Serial number and make combination is also super key. Serial number, make, model combination is also super key. And what is the minimal? Out of all these super key, what is minimal? Minimal is only serial number. So because it contains only one attribute. So serial number alone is sufficient to find out any car uniquely. So this means from all the super keys, whatever the minimal super key, if I can find out a minimal super key, that minimal super key which can uniquely identify any row in the table, that will be the key of my table. So key of R is a minimal super key, means we cannot remove any attribute from the minimal super key. So it is the minimum requirement, minimum number of attribute that are required to identify any row uniquely. So in this case, we have two keys. Key one can be state and registration number. State and registration number. Second key can be serial number only. Now out of these two, our minimal super key is serial number. So we can use serial number to identify my row uniquely. So relation, uh, now in this case, as you can see, registration number is also minimal super. If I can use only registration number, so registration number is also minimal super key. Serial number is also minimal super key. So in this case, in this particular relation, I have two minimal super keys. Out of these two minimal super keys, I can choose one. So any key that is chosen arbitrarily to be the primary key, that will act as a primary key, and all the minimal super key will act as a candidate key, and whatever the left behind, that is called alternate key. So I hope it is now clear what is super key and what is minimal super key, and what is primary key, what is candidate key, and what is alternate key. So all these terms are related to each other, and you must clear your concept about super key. The concept of super key is very important, and 2 mark question is always there in final exams, that what is super key and what is the difference between super key and primary key or candidate key. So you must be clear all these things. Now coming to the second rule. So second rule is basically related to the key attribute. So it is basically entity integrity rule. Entity integrity rule says that the primary key attribute of each relation, primary key means the key that we have selected as a primary key, that is minimal super key. Out of the two possible candidates, I select one as a primary key, and now entity integrity is related to primary key only. It says that primary key attribute of each relation schema R cannot have null value. So this is a rule that primary key cannot have null value in any tuple of R. This is because primary key values are used to identify the individual tuple. So mathematically you can write that T pk is not equal to null. This means primary key of tuple T, primary key of tuple T cannot be null. Other attributes of R may also be similarly constrained to disallow null values. So you should, in fact, you should put the constraint on all the other attributes of any relation, that they should not contain the null value, because null value is basically a problem. Its interpretation is multiple. We have multiple interpretation for the null value. We cannot say whether the information is not known to us or whether it is missing. So null value should be avoided in any table as much as possible, and you can put the restriction on the attribute itself. So when you declare a table, you can put the restriction on the columns of the table, that these columns should not contain any null value. So if you are selecting, when you selecting the primary key of a table, system will automatically put this restriction entity, and for implementing entity integrity, system will automatically put this restriction on the primary key, that it should not be null value. But for other attribute, you have to define that particular restriction yourself. Then third one is the referential integrity constraint. Again, a constraint involving two relations. So all the previous constraints, that is entity integrity rule and key value, key constraint, key constraint and entity integrity rule, these are the rules that involve only single relation, but referential integrity rule involves on two relation. So this is the concept of foreign key basically, that we have already discussed, and it is used to specify a relationship among the tuple in two relations: the referencing relation and the referenced relation. There are two kind of relation. One is referencing, another one is reference. One table which is referring to other table, and the reference table means the table which is being referred by another table. So tuples in the referencing relation R1 have attribute foreign key Fk. So if we have one attribute Fk, one column, that is foreign key in another, in relation R1, that reference the primary key of the attribute of a relation R2. So R2 is another relation which has a primary key, and that primary key is acting as a foreign key in the relation R1. Then the rule says that tuple T1 in R1 is set to reference a tuple T2 in R2 if T1 T1 Fk is T1 Fk is equal to T2 Pk. This means the foreign key value of tuple 1 will be equal to primary key of value of tuple 2. So tuple 2 is a tuple from relation R2 and tuple 1 is a tuple from relation R1. So any tuple in relation R1 will contain the value of foreign key only if that value exists in tuple T2 in relation R2 as a primary key. So this is referential integrity constraint. So statement of the constraint is that the value in the foreign key column of the referencing relation R1 can be either, we have two options only, a value of an existing primary key of the corresponding primary key in the relation R2, or second option is if the value is not existing, then you have to put the null value. So foreign key column can contain null value. Primary key column will not contain the null value, but foreign key can contain null value. Null value, when it will contain null value? When the value is not appearing in the in another table as a primary key. So if value does not exist in another table as a primary key, then you can put the null value as a value of the column which is acting as a foreign key in relation R2. See, so that is your referential constant. Beside these, other type of constants are also there, that is called semantic integrity constant. Semantic means the meaning. So there are some semantic constant like based on the application semantics, and they cannot be expressed by the ER model or relational model in any way. For example, the maximum number of hours per employee for all the project he or she works on is 56 hours per week. So now this is the condition of that is explained by, you can say, organization, but this condition cannot be implemented either in ER model or in a relational model. So this kind of restriction, this kind of constraint, they can be implemented with the help of programming language. So the language in which you are creating the system software for the organization, either C or C++ or Java, whatever language you use, these kind of constraints can be implemented in the languages only. So there are some constant specific languages that are available in new, you can say, database management system. SQL 99 allows triggers and assertions. These are basically way of implementing the semantic constraint. So they allow, these are with the help of programming language. So this is basically programming language that is called PL SQL. The exact name is PL oblique SQL. So PL SQL is programming language that is a part of SQL, extension of SQL, you can say, that can be used to implement these kind of you can say these kind of constraint. So we have key constraint, entity integrity constraint, and foreign key constraint that can be implemented in the relational database management system. We have semantic integrity constraint also, that is based upon some conditions, some scenario in the organization, and those semantic constraint cannot be implemented in the relational database. You need some programming language to implement those constraints. It can be in the program, or it can be with the help of SQL, PL SQL, which is basically the programming language that is an extension of SQL that allows to implement these kind of constraint on the database. So that is all about today's lecture. So if you have any doubt from today's lecture, you can discuss again. We can discuss again that slide. So today we covered, first of all, the problems of ER diagram. There are two kind of problem: fan trap and chasm trap. Fan trap appears when we have a path, but the path is ambiguous, and chasm trap appears when we don't have any path. So fan trap can be resolved by reorienting the ER diagram. the main focus point here is M to 1, 1 to M relationship. So if this kind of organization is there in the relationship, you can reorient the diagram to remove the fan trap. Second is chasm trap, that basically no path exists in that particular trap. So chasm trap appears when we have no path between the entities, and that can be resolved by adding a new relationship among the entities. So after that we covered constraint. We have three kind of constraint. One is key constraint, entity integrity constraint, then referential integrity constraint. Beside this, we have some specific semantic constraint also, and those constraint cannot be implemented with the help of a relational database management system, but can be implemented by some programming languages. So that is all that we covered. Beside, we also covered the concept of super key, primary key, candidate key, and alternate key. So I hope this all is clear to you people. So if you have any doubts, you can discuss.